entering the Mayo experience.
That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. A hell of a lot of violence going to be going down this weekend on ESPN. It's the second main regular ESPN card, and we have, the last few weeks it's been. I love fights and I love watching fights, but it's a little bit more difficult to get up and get excited from this one. Maybe you don't have the quote-unquote marquee names across the board, but there is going to be some violence. Cody Saftic here in studio, as always, with me.
As always.
Like, this fight card is fun.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, mostly because of the main event, but all the same, it's a good card top to bottom. But when you have a main event like GAETHJE BARBOZA, it literally does not matter what else you put on it. People are going to get excited. This is a great fight.
Yeah, and in general, it's just like, we had Wichita and London. London ended up delivering, but you wouldn't have 100% known that from the get-go. And then we had like the Prague card, and there's been a couple good fights, some exciting fights that we get excited about. But I think there's like a lot. There are at least 5-6 fights on this card that I'm just like, yeah. The Jack Nicholson gif, where he's just like, That's essentially how I feel about this.
An interesting bit there is that I hear people like writing on social media, writing online. They're like, what do you guys are thinking might be the fight of the night? And the fact that GAETHJE BARBOZA isn't the only answer shows you that, yeah, there's a ton of fights that have a sleeper position that they could be extremely entertaining. So could be a good one.
100%. Let's before we do that, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do here. We've got last week's winner is Fight Ford C. Congratulations, you have won 20 DK dollars. I believe the money has already been put into your account as well. Don't quote me on that, and don't shoot the messenger if I'm wrong. But if it isn't, then it's coming. Ask anybody else who's made it. We've never stiffed anybody on the 20 DK dollars.
20 DK bones. 20
DK bucks in your face. This week, all you gotta do is, number one, give the episode a like.
Of course.
Nothing is possible without that. Number two, leave your DK handle. And number three, give us your greasiest theory in a Cody Saftic fashion.
That's right.
Your greasiest theory as to why Conor retired. Because, let's be honest, he probably didn't really retire. Now, I guess the straight up answer is, because of all of that news that we've been kind of tiptoeing around that for the last little bit. Anytime Conor came up, that there's some stories. If you go onto MMA Reddit, that
tons of stories.
Things are looking dicey for him, to say the very, very least. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, yesterday, I was here recording and stuff like that, and I guess that kind of buries the lead. People now know that we record this on Wednesdays now. Shit. But I was recording one of Mayo's shows. And all of a sudden, it's just like Sports Illustrated comes up, and it's just like tagging something from New York Times. I'm like, oh snap!
Oh, it's on.
The big boys are in now. So obviously a terrible situation. Nobody is happy about this happening, but we'll see how it all plays out. We can talk a little bit more about that at the end if we want to. It's a touchy subject, and frankly, he didn't get charged. We don't have all the facts, so. It is what it is. So, but yeah.
Many possible avenues. I saw something yesterday. They dropped like betting lines on odds, basically, on what is McGregor's next step, whether it be MMA.
This is before the other news dropped on all of people in the know already kind of heard about this stuff from like RTE in Ireland.
We'll talk about it at the end of the show. Yeah. We'll have some fun here. Let's make some money first and foremost, because that's why we're here, and talk about some great fights. And then at the end, whatever, McGregor. Nobody really cares. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't personally care. It is what it is. You're going to hear about 20 more of these stories over the next 5 years. So get used to it. Buckle in for the McGregor ride.
I don't think he's retired whatsoever. I think that's not even a hot take.
Of course not. And we can talk about that at the end of the show. Yeah. But not a hot take, Paul.
He's still in the testing pool. But let's get to actual fights that are going on here. We have Edson Jr. Barboza taking on Justin Gaethje. Edson Barboza is 8,500 on DraftKings, minus 145 favorite. Justin Gaethje is 7,700 and plus 125. Oh my God. Oh, the violence gods. It's amazing. This fight's going to be so good.
There's no amount of money that you could pay either man that would be worth it for what they're about to endure come Saturday.
It's going to hurt so bad. and it's gonna look so good. I'm so excited, so jazzed up for this fight. Gaethje, I think when he first came into the promotion, actually was talking about how like this is the fight that kind of scared him a bit, because of like the quick kicks and just how dangerous this guy can be, how dangerous Barboza can be. But we have seen, it's like, if you can force Barboza to fight off of his back foot, then he can't time those kicks. And if, like, as he's moving backwards, like he doesn't deal with the pressure the best, right? It's like somebody who's up in their face, and who does that better than anybody? To his own health detriments and whatnot.
Yeah, wow.
Justin Gaethje.
I don't even know if he knows how to step backwards.
No, he doesn't. This is going to be a war. It's a Justin Gaethje fight. Yeah. This guy is must-see TV every single time you see him. He's so exciting. And now if people, I'm sure people have really, really hot takes about this one. Good on you if you do. Play that guy on DraftKings, because you're going to need one of these guys, frankly, and I think he's going to be considerably more popular, but Gaethje averages like 8.5 strikes per minute. Just like that's this guy.
Barboza's the 7,700.
It's like versus like 3.5 to like 8.5. It's just like Gaethje has the ability to absolutely annihilate the slate. Anytime that he fights, he has the ability to absolutely crush it. Score if he goes 5 rounds, he could land like 200 significant strikes. This guy, that's just the type of fighter he is. Yeah. So he is the guy who could completely break the slate. But obviously, he's going against such a dangerous kicker, striker in Edson Barboza. He could totally get knocked out. We've seen Gaethje go through so many wars. The guy's battle-tested, I suppose, but you can't take that type of damage so often in your life and try to come out on the back end. It's basically, for me, it's dog or pass. The line keeps. I'm going Gaethje. I want Gaethje on DraftKings. Do I feel great about it? No. If you want to win any sort of money, you're going to have to have the winner of this fight. It's just the way it is. Like, I can't see how the winner of this fight doesn't end up on a score on the winning lineups. Right.
So if you're the type of person, a multiple lineup, you're gonna play both of these guys, quite frankly. But yeah, single lineup, $7,700. That's a great price tag. Like you said, you don't feel great about it, but you'd feel great about scoring 135 points with a guy that you paid $7,700 for. So yeah, high upside. I gotta go Barboza on this one. The thing with Justin Gaethje is he's like Homer Simpson very much, in the sense that he'll just weather the damage. He'll take everything you got, and then he'll turn the tide and come back. But recently, since he made that jump from World Series of Fighting to the UFC, and he's taking on the best guys in the world, you're realizing you can't just take all the damage in the world. Eddie Alvarez poured it on him. Now, Eddie Alvarez is a guy that was highly speculated that, hey, he doesn't have a great chin, and if you pressure him, you can break him down, you can knock him out. Gaethje will beat this guy. But Eddie Alvarez pieces him up, knocks him out. Dustin Poirier. There's a perception about Dustin Poirier, especially a couple fights back. Now people are definitely on board with one Dustin the Diamond. But even you look at a couple fights back, there was a perception with Dustin Poirier that, hey, guy doesn't have a great chin, and he kind of breaks and folds when you put the pressure on him. But Gaethje tries, and this guy just, he sustains so much damage in his attempt to eventually break you that he eventually folds. Barboza, this is the exact same situation. Barboza is not the kind of fighter that you want to weather damage with. You do not want to go down that road. No. You want to take this guy down. Dan
Hooker.
Yeah. And the guys that have beaten him are the guys that have been able to successfully take him down. The guys that have been able to take him down, grind him for the most part.
And Michael Gaethje, in theory, should be able to do that, but he won't.
Probably could.
But
probably
he won't.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes this fight dangerous. I would say on a betting perspective, you pass. On a DK perspective, you have to go one or the other. I'm personally going with Barboza here, but that's the thing, is that there's so many variables. Nobody can sit with a straight face and tell you that they got an edge on this fight, because there's just so many possible outcomes to it. Maybe the leg kicks play a factor for either guy. Maybe somebody gets clipped early. Maybe the ground game comes in effect for Justin Gaethje. I don't know. But one thing I will credit Edson Barboza with is Edson Barboza has taken some life-changing shit kickings in his career. And the guy is no worse for wear, man. Like, he's basically like Wolverine. He just recuperates so unbelievably quick. When he fought Michael Johnson, he got beat pillar to post. Didn't seem to slow him down one bit. His fight with Tony Ferguson is absolute carnage. Did not seem to phase him. He beat Pettis, Gilbert Melendez, and Dariush after that. His fight with Khabib What human being walks out of that unfazed? But I mean, he gets his ass kicked and he comes back to absolutely get slaughtered by Kevin Lee and then puts on a career best performance against Dan Hooker. Crazy. So I'm not looking at him as a shop-worn fighter, whereas Justin Gaethje, even though he just beat James Vick, he caught Vick early. Nothing really happened. It's not your typical Justin Gaethje fight. Vick, I don't put him on the same level as Edson Barboza, so there's going to be some problems. If Gaethje was a smart guy, and he's got a smart team, and I'm not saying he's a stupid guy, but yeah, you would think he would think, I'm going to lure this guy into a gunfight. But who realistically wants to get into a gunfight with Edson Barboza? I'll switch it up and take
Justin
him down.
Gaethje may be the one person on earth that like doesn't care. Yes. He may actually be like, kick me in the head. Now,
outside of his last fight with James Vick, like, I dare you to find a Justin Gaethje fight where he does not get fucking beat up at some point.
For sure.
And again, Edson Barboza is just not the guy, like you mentioned with the kicks. He's so much faster than Gaethje. He's so much more dynamic than Gaethje, but Gaethje's got the heart. Gaethje's got a cast iron chin. Gaethje's got balls. He's got a willingness to come forward. Those are all great X factors that could lead him to getting the victory. And if he does get the victory, oh baby, all day, he's going to score a lot of points. But because he tends to stay flat-footed and in the pocket a little bit too long and stand right in front of his opponent, I think he's just, he's like shooting, I don't know, what's the term? Fish in a barrel? He's like shooting fish in a barrel. If he stands that flat-footed, it'll be an issue. If he just marches him down the whole time, and like you said,
what he's going to try to do.
Barboza doesn't fight great off his back foot. It's
he
like
could eat some knees right up the center if he does that.
And then the one thing that I don't think people are really playing too much into, but I think could be a complete game changer, is that Justin Gaethje can take like a unsufferable amount of punishment to the head. And you see this sometimes in boxing, not so much kickboxing, but a lot of time in boxing, especially with Mexican fighters. These guys don't go down. You got to roast the body. You go to the body on these guys, all of a sudden they tire. Guys with great cardio will tire. And then now that they're a sitting target, they've got nothing to offer you. They get desperate. You can start to predict what they're going to do because everything, you can time it. When he fought Eddie Alvarez put it on him and realized this guy keeps coming. So he cooked his body. And that was a big part of that fight, in my opinion, was his ability to go to Gaethje's body. Gaethje keeps his hands straight up and comes forward. You can beat this guy to the body. And I think Barboza will do that. First couple rounds are going to be chaos. Third and fourth, Gaethje's going to start to tire. I don't know. If it goes to decision, I'm not going to say shocked because I don't know how this is going to go. But
I don't either.
But I think
I wouldn't be shocked if it goes to decision. I think if it goes to decision, it favors Gaethje.
But common sense is that in the fourth or fifth round, some guy's just not going to be able to take this kind of punishment anymore and fall down. So again, even if you're going to play a cash game and you don't think Gaethje's going to win, still take him because he's $7,700 and there's a great chance that he could score 80 points in a loss, especially if he gets into those later rounds. And the other thing is, if he does use his wrestling, Barboza's been taken down by the best guys. He's been ground and pounded by the best guys. I'm not super worried about Gaethje finishing him. Gaethje doesn't got great top game. He could take him down, but Barboza would ultimately just get back up. But that's points for Gaethje. He could get 2 or 3 shitty takedowns that get him 15 points out of his takedowns, plus all the significant strikes. He'd be worth it for a cash game play. This is a good stack. This is a complete stack in a cash game. Yeah. But if you're playing the big tournament, you want the big points, you're only rostering one single lineup, you got a tough decision to make. I would say Barboza.
And you have to make
a decision. You would say Gaethje, and I don't think there's any wrong answer there. We'll see
people who fade the main event in their lineups, like I think you're just like taking yourself out of the running.
Here's something, I don't know if
for the most part, obviously it's possible. Math could work out. Yeah, some other people could score really big, but it's just like, that is a massive risk to be taking if you don't have one of these guys in your lineups in GPP.
If I was to break down this fight to somebody who's not a fight fan, I would say we're in Philadelphia, the home of Rocky Balboa. We've got pretty much the closest thing MMA's ever had to Rocky Balboa fighting in Philadelphia. And this fight's got 1 of 2 possible outcomes. Rocky versus Clubber Lang 1, Rocky versus Clubber Lang 2. Either Barboza's gonna toast this guy and his manager Mick's gonna die ringside, or he's gonna take it and he's gonna break him down and he's gonna beat him late. But if you're anywhere near the Philadelphia area, buy a ticket, go see this. If not, tune in, obviously.
Trevor Whitman still Gaethje's coach?
Yeah, and a great coach.
Whitman's been on all the broadcasts, so I wonder if they're gonna have anybody replace Whitman on the broadcast.
It would be funny if they brought somebody in to replace him, and then you listen into Whitman, and then you're like, Why is he not telling him to take him down? That was the worst corner advice I've ever heard. Why would you not tell him, take him down? That would be funny. I'd love to see that. That would be
kind of funny.
Yeah.
But also you would kind of look at it as like,
they're not going to do it.
It's Justin Gaethje. I think Whitman would know that. Just like, he's not going to listen to me. He's just not going to listen to me. So like, just deal with what we've got. Anyway, great fight. I think you can probably tell that we're pretty excited about that one. Let's move on. We've got Jack Hermansson taking on David Branch. Hermansson 8,300 minus 125. Branch is 7,900 and plus 105. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, when I think about Dave Branch, I almost think of a case of y'all must have forgot. Like, this guy's unbelievably talented. I never thought he really got the respect he deserved. He was a dual world champion in a World Series of Fighting at 185 pounds, 205 pounds. Comes to the UFC. Jocko's a guy that, it was a tough fight. Wasn't a great fight. He got the W, but Jocko's a guy that I know people have been beating him lately. Was a tough fight. This guy's on his way up, posed problems. Then he gets Luke Rockhold. Has a good first round, good enough. Hits this guy, doesn't put him down. Rockhold's world class, man. If you don't knock out Rockhold, you got some serious problems on your hands. And unfortunately, he ends up getting taken out. All problem. Then he takes on Thiago Santos, who everybody loves. He fucking dices this guy. Gets caught up in a bad fight with Jared Cannonier, who is on another level right now. And it's like people are seriously considering Jack Hermansson. Like, I don't know. Like, Dave Branch is a better striker than Hermansson. He's better on the ground than Jack Hermansson. Hermansson's got the wrestling advantage, but is he going to take Dave Branch down? I don't know. Dave Branch is a bigger guy than Jack Hermansson. And another thing with Jack, and I do like this guy. I've made money betting Jack the Joker. I think a lot of people have. He's been good to us. But you talk about levels to this, and, Scott Askham, well, he's not in the UFC anymore, right? And Cesar Ferreira gets diced by Cesar Ferreira, who's just kind of that middling holding on for his job. Alex Nicholson, gone. Brad Scott, gone. When he tried to fight Thiago Santos, he didn't have success like old Dave Branch. He got diced out by Thiago Santos. Talis Latis, oh my God, now mind you, he had a shoulder injury. But like, from the grips of death does he come back to get that victory over Talis Latis? Not a good look. And then he chokes out Gerald Meerschaert his last fight. Again, we've made money off this guy. It's easy to get behind him. He's got tools. Dave Branch is 37. He's coming off a knockout loss. He flat gassed against Jared Cannonier in his last fight. But taking down Jared Cannonier is like trying to take down a fire hydrant. It's very difficult, especially at 185. Let's be honest. At 185, very difficult. So now you get tired. You're standing in front of this guy. He's throwing heat-seeking missiles at you. You crumple over and go down. Luke Rockhold does the same thing. You go down. Jack Hermansson doesn't pose those same threats.
No, he doesn't really have the punching power.
So Dave Branch plus 105? What? And then
he may be washed, though. He may be washed.
He might be. He might be.
That's what the books may be telling us.
But it's the kind of price tag that really makes you want to see. Is he washed? I'm willing to take a chance at that. You give him at minus 165, minus 155. Then I'm thinking, is he washed? Maybe I'm willing to take a little bit of money line on that, the old Jack Hermansson. But Jack Hermansson as a favorite against Dave Branch, I don't know. Very tricky. So I'll admit, been extremely busy this week and not all my tape study. Like, I don't feel super confident with all my plays to the point that I'm going to give you the definitive pick.
Are you ready to smash it? But it sounds like you like Branch.
But I'm not seeing it so far, right? I think Dave Branch is just, he poses more problems.
Better boxer, more lethal. Power.
How many times we've...
And then, Hermansson does have the wrestling, but he's, Branch is...
But Branch is much better on the ground.
We haven't seen Branch really do much on the ground, though, in the UFC. Beforehand, yes, but I don't know. It's a tough situation. It's a tough spot. Another spot that you don't necessarily have to play this in DraftKings, this team.
Fair.
Or one of these guys, but I wouldn't be shocked if one of them comes out and scores pretty well.
Right. I just think that the perception in MMA is that you're only good as your last fight, so that a lot of people are probably thinking, is Dave Branch washed? And that's the reason that you're looking at this line. Whereas I'm going to try to take the perspective on this one that you got to look at there's classes to this. And it's easy to think, is this guy washed? But when you look at his record and you look at the fact that maybe he's not using his ground game, Luke Rockhold, geez, man, this guy's a former middleweight world champion of the world in Strikeforce. Absolute gangster. I know his chin's maybe starting to go, but absolute gangster as far as his UFC career for the most part has gone. The guy's top level. And he's realistically probably only 2 good wins away from getting a title shot at 205 because it's so thin and they need names. But here's a world-class opponent. Thiago Santos. Here's a guy that people are giving an actual shot if he was to fight John Jones.
Well, they're crazy.
Because he's punches Chance Paul. He's being viewed at like the number 2 or 3 guy in the world at 205 pounds. This guy is world class. Jared Cannonier has got a fight coming up with Anderson Silva. If he goes out there and dices Anderson, and he might, this guy's going to be looked at like a top 6, 7 guy in the world at 185 pounds. That is world class. Jack Hermansson is fighting Talis Latis and Gerald Meerschaert. It's not even fucking close. It's not even fucking close. But the perception is one guy's winning fights, which he is, and one guy's losing fights. So I think Branch is physically stronger than Hermansson, will be able to keep it standing. If he does keep it standing, he'll be able to bop him up. And if for whatever reason the fight does hit the ground, and by the way, you say Dave Branch doesn't have great, but he knocked out Thiago Santos. The guy can strike. If he even
I didn't say that.
No. I'm just saying, yeah, I said you.
Hey, stop putting words in my mouth.
I know, my bad. I mean, people have said Branch not a great striker, but it just takes one. And if he touches this guy and this guy falls down and he ends up on top, now you've got big problems. He can grind. He can go 5 rounds back in the day. I know he gassed out his last time, but I just mean the matchup's so much different. I feel like Branch is going to be able to use his tools this time, not like the Cannonier fight. And for that reason, I love the price. I'd be willing to give it a shot. 7,900. If he doesn't get the finish, he's not above just grinding and not scoring anything, but it's still sub 8,000. So I'd be willing to give it a poke. At least consider giving it a poke. But yeah,
sure.
my pick would be Branch. And I don't know where you're going. You're going Hermansson? You think Hermansson got a shot?
You kind of just sold me on Branch, to be perfect.
Well, let's go then, baby.
We got. I was really torn. And you gave me the other ones. But we've got Michael Johnson taking on Josh Emmett. Michael Johnson 8,400 minus 110 across the board. Josh Emmett is 7,800. Michael Johnson at 145. Seems to be a thing now. He seems to be.
He can make the weight. He's
making the weight. Josh Emmett's coming off of some real tough losses. Getting his head absolutely knocked off.
It was a nasty KO. Not just like he got knocked out. It was like, woo! Yeah. That's the kind of thing you don't want to ever talk about.
Yeah, Jeremy Stevens and then the other one was the Ricardo Lamas. Yeah.
No, he blasted Lamas.
No, okay, so it was,
and then Jeremy Stevens turned him out.
Yeah, and he hasn't fought since the Stevens fight. Sorry, my bad.
It's all good. We'll just go through his last 3. So he beats Felipe Arantes, where he drops him like 5 times.
Arantes falls to his back, flops, and he gets all of the knockdown points.
And then he smokes Lamas. It's like that karma comes back, and he himself gets smoked out. But you're fighting world class.
By absolute
the best of the best. While Felipe Arantes, but the last 2 guys.
No, I mean Jeremy Stevens made him sleep in stay in a dark room for the next 3 months, I would imagine. That was a really nasty knockout.
Yeah, which is why he's taken over a year off. Because that's generally what you have to do after things like that happen to you.
Johnson is, we've seen it for years. This guy striking is awesome. On the feet, he is, when he is flowing, this guy put on a clinic against Edson Barboza. Just boxed him right up. And who knows? Maybe he's turned a corner. Maybe he's on the right path here. But Emmett's got some power. This is another one. It's a straight pick 'em for a reason. If I'm forced to play one of these 2 guys, and you may have to be, a lot of this card's going to come down to just picking the right winners in the top 3 fights here.
Yeah.
Especially on DraftKings. You're going to have to be on the right side of them, because these are all kind of the value plays, and the value plays with immense upside. I'm going to take Emmett. It's an odds value type of play here, but I think it could be very, very competitive. I don't have a hot take on this one. I guess, the time off, the knockout, but he took enough time off since that last fight that I think he's probably back on track.
Yeah, you don't know if he's shook. You don't know if he's got ring rust. You don't know if Uriah Faber coming out publicly and saying TJ Dillashaw used to take performance enhancers while he was at my gym, and I'm surprised nobody calmed to this point, makes guys like Josh Emmett, who also train out of that gym and also perhaps could be on performance enhancers, then say, shit, I should not. I don't know, dude. I just mean question marks is all I'm saying. I said that that really fast. It was like my legal disclaimer. Fuck knows, dude. He's been off for 13 months and he absolutely got starched. But you're right. You don't want him to come back 6 months later, 7 months later. It's like, dude, you're still competing at a world-class level. Your last 2 opponents were, again, highly ranked world-class level talent. So don't feel bad. Just get back to the gym, do what you can do. And I think he poses a lot of problems to Michael Johnson. The fight game is a tricky bitch, Paul. When you think about Edson Barboza, who we were talking about earlier, this guy took some life-changing beatings, and yet his next performance, he's back. His reflexes haven't gone. His chin hasn't gone. His ability, his talent, his speed, none of that has seemingly left him, despite just absolutely getting his body torched. Michael Johnson, I can't say the same thing. Michael Johnson is shockingly 2 years younger than Edson Barboza, and shit-kicked Edson Barboza. But Michael Johnson, he himself got into a very similar situation. He fought Khabib, got fucking wrecked, let's be honest here. And then he took on Justin Gaethje, which was a very difficult fight because Gaethje put a lot of punishment on him. Then he decides, I'm going to go down to 45. Blame it on weight cut. Blame it on Darren Elkins being one tough son of a bitch. But he did not look good, Paul. He's slow on his feet at 45. That big power, not quite there. And as soon as he gets taken down, he just gives up the rear naked choke and he loses to Elkins. No shame in losing to Elkins.
And your first time at 145.
Yes.
The second time back into it, maybe it helps you out a little bit. Maybe you're that much better. You know the mistakes that you made in the weight cuts and how you could can improve on it.
And no shame losing to Darren Elkins. But a little bit, the tiniest bit, little bit is of shame getting finished by Darren Elkins. All the same, let's try him at 45 again. He takes on Andre Fili. Dude, really close fight. I thought his wrestling, because I mean, he's got a wrestling base. He's going to stuff Fili's takedowns. He gets taken down multiple times by Fili. He doesn't look good. He squeaks a split decision. And a lot of people think it went the other way.
So it sounds like you love Emmett.
Fili, an alpha male guy, is going to be able to help out Emmett and give him all the tricks in the book. And then his next fight against Artem Lobov, he's taking on Artem Lobov. Again, he didn't look good. He looked good because he was fighting Artem Lobov. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Does it make sense? Like, Artem Lobov, he's got a chin, but Michael Johnson's got big power, and Michael Johnson's going to piece this guy, and he did piece him up. But it's like, again, if you're looking at levels to this, that win over Artem Lobov doesn't do nearly as much as me as, Emmett stepped up to the plate. Now, I look at what they got here. Emmett's way faster than Michael Johnson. He does not have the power advantage, but he does have nice power. Doesn't have the power advantage. I'm going to say he maybe has a cardio advantage only because we've seen Johnson slow down the later fights go. Johnson at 45 has not given us any indication of that power. He's got 3 fights in the featherweight division. He has not knocked out anybody. He hasn't really shown a lot of power at 145. Who knows if it's translated? He's definitely coming to the back 9 of his career, and the wrestling is a key factor here. Again, Johnson on paper is a wrestler. So people will say, well, Emmett's not going to be able to take him down. Fili was taking him down. And Emmett's arguably a better wrestler than Fili. He's more explosive, he's stronger, he's a little more dynamic. His striking's not nearly as good, his striking's not dynamic. But if he just 1-2s, plants this fucking guy on the ground, and just grinds him, he's gonna win. I think he should win. But I like Michael Johnson a lot. Talk about a fan favorite. He has not looked good recently, and I can't overlook that. So even though I'm scared about the 13 months off and all of that, I'm not going all the way in on Josh Emmett. I'm saying I got to make a pick here. I'm going to go Josh Emmett.
All right, so we're on the same page there. We've got Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Michelle the Karate Hottie Waterson. 8,600 for Kowalkiewicz, and she's minus 150. Waterson is 7,600 and plus 130. This is pretty much a dog or pass situation. It's pretty straightforward for me. I don't know if I really like either of these girls on DraftKings, but 7,600 for Waterson, who has shown a bit of a propensity to score decently. I think she averages like 72 points per fight, just high volume. Sometimes she'll mix in takedowns and stuff. We talked about this way back when. I think it was when Waterson was taking on Paige Van Zandt. And we talk about lifelong mixed martial artists, especially in this women's strawweight division. You talk about lifelong martial artists versus people who took it on a little bit later in life. Maybe it was to get into shape. Maybe it was just, hey, this will be a fun thing to try out. And you'd be like, hey, I'm actually really, really good. Oh my God, I'm on TV doing it. Like, there's some people, or some of the ladies that still kind of fall into this sport, and you know, if you asked them 5 years ago, they wouldn't have ever expected that this is what they'd be doing for their life. I feel similar about this. Like watching Carolina, and I've been pretty okay with Carolina over the years. Like I have a pretty good gauge of like where she's at. On the feet, Michelle Waterson is considerably faster, like way better in general. They've got the kicks, the speed, the ability to control range and distance and stuff like that. Grappling, Carolina may have I would say it's actually pretty safe to say she probably has a strength advantage. She's probably a little bit bigger than Michelle Waterson. Maybe she can hold her up against the cage and play that type of game, but Waterson's no slouch in terms of like grappling at this level, at least. I think it's Waterson or pass. Like I like Waterson quite a bit in this spot, to be perfectly honest. I think that she's just the better all-around fighter, and you're getting plus money value on her. I think she's a good little cash game play. I'm not worried about Karolina Kowalkiewicz knocking her out or finishing her early. Maybe like she would have to take her down and find some sort of submission.
Going 3, let's be honest.
It's probably going 3. You're probably getting 3 rounds out of Waterson. 7,600, I think it's a good cash game kind of play. I don't know if she has the upside to win you a GPP, but yeah, it's dog or pass. It's the karate hottie for me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not feeling Michelle Waterson. I'd like to get behind the value. There's definitely good value here, $7,600. Does she have a chance at winning? Certainly she has a chance at winning. But I honestly feel like this is a girl, probably the only girl in the division that has a claim to there could be a 105-pound division and I could be fighting there. She just doesn't overly seem big. She's not overly strong. And what she lacks in that pure strength.
See the picture she posted today?
Getting jacked. Don't get me wrong.
Pretty jacked.
Getting jacked. I hear you.
Those thighs are definitely flyweight thighs, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I'll tell you something, Paul. I mean, she had a bebe, got a little thick, turned that thickness into muscle. She's looking good. And to be honest, this is a girl that's a consummate pro, always training at the highest level. Been a mixed martial artist, been a martial artist her entire life, and has got skills everywhere, like you mentioned. Good striker, karate background, good grappling. Wrestling kind of checks out, man. When she fought Courtney Casey's twice the size of her, and she's able to take this girl down. Not based on strength, based on technique, because she's got great technique. She's a problem. But where I find that she runs into trouble is when girls are physically aggressive and strong and stay at her, stay with her. Now, I'm talking world-class opponents, but when she fought Rose and when she fought Tecia Torres, these two girls come at her, deliver, basically outstrike her, push her back, and they're both good enough grapplers that they're not going to get taken down. In Rose's case, she's able to take her down and submit her, but in Tecia Torres' case, it's like Tecia Torres is kind of just average wrestler. I don't want to say average striker because that's her strong point, but again, not great everywhere. Then her next fights against Courtney Casey and Felice Herrig, they don't pose the same problems. You can maybe use your grappling here. In the Courtney Casey fight, Waterson got hurt standing. Waterson got outstruck standing, but was able to take her down. In the Felice Herrig fight, goes to decision. It's a close fight. Felice gives her everything she can handle. But against Carolina, I think, maybe not a better striker technically, but is going to have more volume, could have more pressure, is stronger than her, so she's not going to get taken down. And if she does get taken down, she's a competent enough grappler to not get submitted, force some later rounds, tire this girl out, hurt her standing. The $8,600 in DraftKings, I want no part of that. No. The minus 150, I'd love to see it come down a little bit. It is tempting, certainly. I'm a degenerate. I'll probably have some shares of it. I wouldn't go everywhere on it. But it's nice to see that you're saying Waterson, because talk me out of Carolina. Like, you're not on board. I hear you.
You're not fearful that,
Waterson
getting absolutely bamboozled, knocked out for Carolina is going to affect her in any way, shape, or form?
Who did it to her, Paul?
I'm not saying that it's
Jessica motherfucker.
Sure, but like, you don't think that
at all.
You don't think she's never been knocked out like that? Like, she got like legit knocked out.
Imagine someone was like, "Yo, dog, I just got hit by a car." You'd be like, "What?" Like, "Yeah, man, it was a fucking big pickup truck." You'd be like, "No way, Dodge 250, no way." Like, "Yo, dog, just got hit by a car." You're like, "What?" Like, "A smart car." You'd be like, not really the same thing, right? Jessica Andrade hits. I'd love to see it on one of those like speed bet. You know what? Michelle Waterson might be able to hit as hard as Jessica Andrade. A Jessica Andrade jab could be a Michelle Waterson spinning back kick where you generate all that power in the world and just blast that thing. But what I'm saying is I'm not worried that she's going to get... Should I be? Should I be?
You should. I think this is the exact style. It's like Carolina's
a power punch.
Carolina walks her forward, but Michelle's going to be fighting off of her back foot. landing kicks.
That's what I'm worried.
Going off on angles like that. She's way faster than Carolina.
And if that's what I clinch up, if they do clinch up against the fence, it's like you said, Carolina should be able to just hold her in place and at least just chop away with knees. And because she just keeps going, it's just little strikes just adding up. Not enough for DK purposes because it's 8,600. But enough for the judge to swing it.
DraftKings, you don't want cage work. Cage work is like death.
I'd like to say
because nobody, they don't score.
Cage work is cancer in DraftKings. Let's be honest. I don't know if that's insensitive. I'm sorry if it is, but yeah, when it's a stall and grind fight, money line, ooh, hold them there a little longer. But in DraftKings, it's like, please God, do something. Complete a takedown. You know, outstrike them. Do something.
It doesn't sound like I'm going to be able to change your mind.
Then I will have less shares than I normally would have, and I am considering passing because my boy Paul Shag, I respect his opinion.
All right, we got Kennedy, and I'm gonna butcher this.
Kennedy,
Kennedy,
Mr. Kennedy,
Kennedy
and NZECHUKWU taking on Paul Bearju Craig.
a little easier to pronounce.
Mr. Kennedy is 9,000 and a -190 favorite. Bearju is 7,200 and plus 165. This one was actually, when I made the boards originally, is -225 Kennedy. Money is coming in on Paul Craig. Watching, you know, his Dana White Contender Series fight, Kennedy. We were actually watching it just before we came on here together, looking at the fight, kind of like dissecting it. The guy actually looks decent, but he's fighting some sort of like hillbilly bum from Alaska. I don't know if they have hillbillies in Alaska.
I was just thinking that. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to say it, but like, do they have hillbillies in Alaska?
I mean, they have hills.
Hillbilly to me just seems, I don't know. I don't know.
Hillbilly seems like, yeah, it seems like Kentucky or something like that. Sorry, Wes.
That was a little harsh to Kentucky, but...
well, I apologize to our friend Wesley Colvin for saying that. Yeah, he's a great guy. This kid, he looked good. He's like able. He knew where the guy's 6'5", super long reach. He knew he had massive physical advantages over this guy, and was able to. He knew, you could see, he just knew exactly where his opponent couldn't hit him, and he was able to. And he picked up on that super quick in that fight. Like within a minute and a half, he understood the range. It was like the beginning of the end in that fight. He shook off one takedown that, you know, he looked like he knew what to do. But Bearju, I imagine, has a massive grappling advantage in this spot. He's not a great wrestler, but he's gotten guys down to the ground before, and been able to style from top position quite a bit. He's no scrub from that extent. But NZECHUKWU, I'm just gonna call him Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy should be able to style on this on Bearju from distance. The one thing that you worry about is the takedown. 9,000 for a -190. Like, there's not very much line value here whatsoever. So I'm interested to see how it shakes out in terms of ownership, because this could be a good spot on DraftKings. Just in terms of like, people don't play this guy, and like, frankly, he's taking, like, they're setting up this kid to try to get him to shine. They are on an ESPN card. Yeah, they're trying to get this kid to shine. Like, there's a reason why they bring in Paul Craig for this spot. Maybe he completely blows it and blows his opportunity. I'm picking the kid. A lot of good things coming out of Fortis MMA in Dallas right now. Like, that whole gym, they are definitely on the rise right now. So it's a kind of a gym that I kind of want to tail. It seems like everything's kind of coming together for them. I'll pick him here, even though the odds value is bad. I think he makes a very good tournament play at that rate too, because most people have not even looked at his one fight on Dana White Contender Series. They just on fight day, they look at the odds and they go, oh, that guy's 9,000, he's -190. Okay, I don't want any part of that. So hopefully you catch low ownership on him here. What's your take? Yeah, hopefully you get some low ownership. This fight's got some danger in it. It's got some problems in it, but logic would dictate that, yeah, and NZECHUKWU should go out there and knock this guy out. Potentially, anyways. Maybe it's set up for him to look good. I think that at 6-0, when you watch tape on him, yes, he looks green. But it also looks like here's a very athletic guy that's going to be making leaps and strides. He's only 6 fights into his career. And like you talked about, he had a great idea of distance management. He's 6'5".
He's not only did he have physical advantages over his last opponent, Dana White's the hillbilly from Alaska. He's going to have physical advantages over pretty much anybody he fights outside of John Jones, just because he's 6'5" at 205 pounds. He has a massive reach. The fact that he knows how to use that distance, huge. Savage Drew's been fighting in the UFC for damn near a decade. No, a decade, yeah. And no idea how to use his range. So a lot of good things coming out of that. Now you talk about Fortis MMA. Here's a good camp with a lot of guys that are in the UFC now. One of the better Texas gyms. He's in the right hands. He should be developing. He should be getting better. But Paul Craig is an upset specialist, you know? He's the kind of guy that can go out there and upset somebody that people are very high up on. People seem high up on Kennedy, and rightfully so. It looks like here's a guy that, he's only 26. I don't think he's great right now. But whoa, what about when he's 29 or 30 years old? Maybe he could be actually pretty good. But the one thing that worries me is his last 4 fights. His last 3, he's finished them within 2 rounds. That 4th fight back, he fought Anton Berzin. Anton Berzin was actually on The Ultimate Fighter. Not all that good. Not super experienced either. More of a grappler, trained out of American Top Team. So, you know, good gym at least. And that he wins a split decision over him to keep his undefeated record. But there's a fight where the longer this goes, he's very dynamic. He's a great striker, but he's 6-0. He's never tasted defeat. He's never really tasted a war or deeper rounds. And Paul Craig, at the very least, could take him into, theoretically, take him into deeper waters, tire him. If this guy flat gasses out and Paul Craig ends up on top of him, you've got some serious problems on your hand. So for $7,200, as far as punt plays go, this is a punt, man. Paul Craig could maybe pull him into deeper waters and beat him. What we're banking on is that Tyson Pedro, Khalil Roundtree, those guys, heavy, dynamic strikers, they knock out Paul Craig like nothing. His last fight with Jim Crute, you talk about a green fighter, Jim Crute is the definition of a work-in-progress green fighter. Talented. Work-in-progress green fighter.
Haven't heard of Jim Crute?
and Paul Craig is just like unable to deal with the pressure game. He's unable to deal with the youth and athleticism. He has spots. He has moments. But ultimately, he folds up and he gets submitted. So I think Kennedy's going to give him much more problems. Maybe he does knock him out in the first round. Again, logic would dictate he probably knocks him out in the first round. 9,000, you could get a good first round finish out of it. Maybe a second round finish, take it. But if you're looking for a punt play, $7,200, I understand why money's coming in, because people are looking at it and saying, shit, Paul Craig's been in situations like this before, has a decent grappling game, is decently strong. He himself is very tall as well. He's 6'4", I'm pretty sure. Maybe he's not going to face the same problems. He's got multiple fights in the UFC. He's been under the bright lights. He's seen the 3rd round before. Those are all things that are playing in his favor. He's going to have those tools. So make your decision on it. But both guys got upside as far as DK goes, I believe.
Oh yeah, this is a fight that you want to be rostering.
Right.
100%.
Kennedy could be an apple pie shitter, and people are going to tweet me, and they're going to say, he's shitting the pie, and he'd be like, fuck, I should have sat here right in here and tell you, don't put him in the pie, because something might go wrong, but I did like what I saw, but against he's a very low level sample size, just buyer beware.
I'll buy the hype. Let's go. I think Craig's going to, it's one of those situations, like, based on where the odds are going right now, it's one of those situations where it's like, if this continues to drop, it's just like Paul Craig ends up being like the most owned underdog on the slate. Like on DraftKings, that is a natural pivot. But we'll see where it's obviously early in the week, and maybe these things bounce back, or maybe people see the weigh-ins and it bounces back.
It always bounces a little bit.
So we'll see how it plays out. But
watch him see how it progresses.
He could be a good leverage play on this card. Frankly, we talked about it. What was it, a while ago? It was like Laureano Staropoli versus Hector Aldana, and everyone was on Aldana that week because he was like he was the popular underdog that week, and it's just like,
just because you're cheap doesn't mean you're good.
Yeah, it's just like both of these guys aren't great, but it's just like easy leverage play to go against everyone else in that spot. If everyone's gonna load up on a very, very low level underdog, you take the other side and just pray. So
and pray, because it could go either way, Paul. It's mixed martial arts.
100%. Give me Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy. Let's move on. We got Sadiq Yusuff taking on Shaman Moraes. 8,700 for Yusuff. Shaman Moraes is 7,500. It's minus 145. Yusuff plus 125. Right. So this is the fight that when people are not picking Edson Barboza versus Justin Gaethje as the fight of the night, this is a fight that kind of comes up for most people. I'm interested to hear your take before I give you mine. It is a tough one, to say the very least, because Shaman ain't no slouch.
No, that's the thing, is that Shaman's actually proven to be a big problem. I mean, the guy's very serviceable. He's strong. He's a dynamic striker. He can stay in your face. He's got big power. He kind of checks out everywhere. But this Sodiq Yusuff, man, I'm sold on this guy. I like this guy lots. Lloyd Irving guy, I suppose that's the one part that you don't like about him. But his grappling's on point. His striking's on point. He's a guy that comes from a Muay Thai background. But again, his grappling is something that I think is in his back pocket. You haven't really been able to see him showcase the best of what he's got because, you know, his Dana White Contender Series fight, super exciting. Very good. There's a pro level kickboxing match on any card. Like, it was high level stuff. He gets a win. And then he takes on Suman, who blasts him. But he's a Mokhtarian. That is one thing you need to keep in mind. But I see the skills there for him.
Well, and then there was controversy about it being like an early stoppage, and it was just like, no.
Suman was mad.
Mokhtarian was about to take an absolute punish.
Like 20 unanswered blows.
He was like up against the cage,
straight to the dome. That was the definition of a mercy kill, where the referee was like, "We're in Australia, bro. Mate, your grandma's in the front row, mate. I'm stopping the fight."
Yeah.
Like, they had a mercy kill for him and they stopped it. But again, Mike Davis is actually a very accomplished a Muay Thai fighter, I believe. And
that was a hell of a fight. That was a UFC level fight. Frankly, Mike Davis should have been signed off of even the loss on that, as it was.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, that was like, you watch that fight and you're like, these guys are better than half of the guys in their division already.
100, dude. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's just like, here's two very competent combatants right now. And then I see him beat Mike Davis, and I think he's not going to fight that level of striker probably for his next 4 or 5 fights. Like, that's high level shit. And Shaman Moraes, it ends up, here's a high level striker too. But he can deal with it. His grappling, again, something that he hasn't had to use, but it's there. The fight with Mokhtarian, he dices him up. It was a punching bag, but it shows what he can do with his combination punching. Dynamic guy, young. He's not going to be taking any step backward. I think he's heading in the right direction. Then when I think about Shaman Moraes, it's not that I don't like Shaman Moraes, but Shaman Moraes, his last fight with Matt Sales, that should have been Matt Sales' fight all day. It's just Sales is a really slow starter. And as a result, he just gives up the first 2 rounds to Shaman Moraes. Shaman, I don't know if he tired. He became a lot more predictable in that 3rd round. Matt Sales rallies, wins the 3rd round for my money's worth, ends up losing a unanimous decision regardless. He's now taken off some time between that. He's not super big for the division anyways, but neither is Matt Sales. Matt Sales, small guy for the division. So you can get away with it there. But against Sodiq, against Sodiq, who's going to be in your face, I believe him to be as good, if not a better striker. He's going to touch you up. He's not going to have that slow start. If you try to take him down, he should be okay. If he mixes it up and takes you down, you know, could be something, a little wrinkle to his game that's going to help him score. I like him. -145, that's likable. 8,700, not as likable. So if you're a Shaman Moraes player, rub your hands together, because that's a nasty price.
Shaman's not much of a DraftKings player. Like, he's not a great DraftKings scorer.
But he is cheap. And if he's going to get into a striking battle, where that's the problem with striking battles. If you don't get no takedowns with no ground transitions, you're not going to score a lot.
Yeah, you have to be just crazy volume, and he's not crazy volume, which is the issue.
And I think that's part of the reason he's going to drop a decision here. He'll give up at least 2 of the 3 rounds based on volume and activity alone. And again, I think Sodiq at -145 is a great play. The $8,700, if it is strictly a strike, if he doesn't use that wrinkle, if he doesn't use his ground game whatsoever, 8,700, man, and I think it's going 3 rounds, so that would be a tough sell. The $7,500, a much better sell, especially if you think Shaman's going to win this fight, which I don't. But like you mentioned, traditionally, not a very high score. You know, this could be a similar scoring effort that when he had against Matt Sales, a fight that he won, that he didn't score a whole lot in. So.
Yeah, he didn't score anything. I think it was like 55 points or something like that in a decision
Which,
win.
Even though 7,500 is cheap, that's still not the amount of points you want for that price.
It's not doing it for you, because there's better plays in his range when the card shakes out.
That have a lot higher upside.
For sure. Let's go move on. We'll move through these next 2 ones quickly, because I don't have very much interest in them from a DraftKings perspective. We have Marina Rodriguez taking on Jessica Aguilar, 9,100 for Rodriguez, and she is -320. Jessica Aguilar, the books have given up on her. She is 7,100, and she is +260. I feel like every
Seems
time
like
Aguilar,
a lot of people have given up on it.
I feel like every single time we come in here, it's just like, anytime that Aguilar is on a card, it's just like, oh, but she has like this historical wrestling. It's just like she's super washed at this point. I don't think Marina's some sort of great play. I don't think she's some sort of potent finisher. She did go to draw. She got absolutely mollywopped against Ronda Marcos in their first round, and then she was able to take the next 2 rounds real dicey, but they ended up scoring a draw. I think there's a little bit of recency bias baked into this price because everyone just saw Ronda Marcos absolutely blast through through Angela Hill this past weekend. So there's that. But frankly, 9,100, this division, not exactly a potent finisher. I know it's Aguilar and she's washed, but like this is a pretty easy fight just to fade altogether. Minus 320, price is probably way too much. And frankly, like, how do you have the faith to put money on Aguilar at this point? So it is just pass for me.
Yeah. To be honest, like if it was minus 200, I would be like, ooh, maybe I consider it, but 320, like somebody thought the same thing and pounded it, I guess. Thing with Jessica Aguilar is that, yeah, like you mentioned, it was almost like when Yves Edwards was at the end of his career. You remember BJ Penn, same boat. You remember how great it was. And Aguilar never got to that level. But again, well, maybe the Yves Edwards level. She was the uncrowned queen of the strawweight division. She went out there and fought the best available talent. And again, this is all a long time ago. And the talent that was hanging around back then, again, Megumi Fuji, legendary. Zwala Frosto, not so much. The legacy is in the past. Since she won World Series of Fighting title, which was like the last hurrah for her against Kalindra Faria, it's just been so downhill in the UFC, Paul. Like, and it's progressively, I want to say, getting worse. I say worse because they did this girl no favors. She takes on Claudia Gadelha in her fight. She's so one-dimensional. She's got a little bit of grappling. I thought so, actually. Weili Zhang met her last time out. Weird, but she's a wrestler. And she fought in the division where there was no other wrestlers. She was the only wrestler. And you know what happens when you're the only one who knows how to wrestle in a fight? You fucking win the fight. That's how fights go. You need to know how to wrestle. So
now everyone else knows how to wrestle, and then the absolute specialists
learns. The specialists still win.
Like Tatiana Suarez are just able to. They're at such a different level,
right? Even you look at most of the champions in the UFC, they're wrestlers, and that's obviously for a reason. But you're right. Everybody was kind of like, I need to learn how to wrestle. And in Aguilar's case, she's almost like little cheaper wrestling credentials. Well, not credentials. She wrestled at a better level, but her wrestling's almost like Carlos Esparza. Good wrestling. But eventually when you get to the people who know how to take down stuff takedowns, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, Carla made the adjustments and learned she's not a great striker, but she'll throw her hands. Yeah. She has a willingness to engage and let her hands go and at least outpoint you. But Aguilar doesn't have that. Now, you lose to Claudia Gadelha, I don't care. There's no big deal. It's the Corny Casey fight that irks me. You need to take this girl down because she's going to outstrike you. You do take this girl down. You ought not to go into her guard. You're supposed to be a good grappler. You're touted as one of the captains of the ATT women's team. You're a fucking legend and a pioneer. Unwilling to engage in a brown belt's guard and ends up just getting kicked from a standing position and loses. After that, she beats Jodie Escobar. It is what it is. And then Weili Zhang's a kickboxer. Well, Sanda. But getting submitted by this girl in the first round, an unheralded prospect from China.
Got worked.
Yeah, it's just like the writing's on the wall. You see the train. It's off the fucking tracks at this point. You can see it. So now what she's getting here, she's getting Marina Rodriguez, a girl that has, I think, 2 inches in the reach department and something like 5 inches in the height department. She's going to be bigger than her. Now, I'm worried about Rodriguez is that Ronda Marcos took her down and dominated her. So what's the one thing that Jessica Aguilar could potentially do? She might be able to take her down and dominate her. But Rodriguez fought through second and third. She kept coming. Gas tank didn't look bad. She's the longer striker. She's the better striker. And if Aguilar can't get the takedowns, it's going to be a problem. But for 320, I want no part of that whatsoever because this is the kind of fight that Aguilar completes a couple takedowns and ends up squeaking. And the 9,100, again, not interested. Recent bias, like you're talking about. One, Marcos just looked really good. This girl had a draw against her. There's some of that. But you also look at the fact that, oh, well, Jessica Aguilar had great durability. This girl doesn't get finished. And now she's getting submitted in the first round by Chinese Sanda prospects. Big problem. But no, she's probably still durable enough to survive. And therefore, I don't want no DK shares. I don't want no moneyline shares. Pass.
It's a big time pass.
If you need to take a dump, don't dump on the card. Just dump during this fight, right? Because it's a great card. This one doesn't have. It's 13 fights. if for whatever reason the MMA gods need a sacrifice so that nothing happens to GAETHJE Barboza, I don't want to sacrifice a lamb, Paul. But I would sacrifice this fight if it happened to get canceled to save that, only for the higher powers. Outside of that, I'll still watch it because I'm a fanatic. But, you know, I wouldn't blame you if you had no interest.
Couldn't agree more. We got Des Green taking on Ross Pearson. We got Des Green 9,300 and minus 445. Ross Pearson 6,900 and plus 355. Des Green, decision machine. Ross Pearson, decision machine. 9,300 on DraftKings for Des Green. No chance. That is maybe the worst play on the card right there. This guy, in all of his fights, averages 41.7 fancy points per fight. Per fight. He's won fights. He's won a bunch of fights in that mix.
Yeah.
And like he scores like 47 points in a win. And he's usually never priced up this. This is why we talk about it's just like sometimes when the DraftKings pricing gets dropped and they mirror the odds quite a bit. It's just like certain things like this, just like, well, just because Des Green probably wins from the outside, wins a stand-up decision, or even, you know, he gets the odd takedown, mixes that in against Ross Pearson. Just because he does that doesn't mean that he makes a good DraftKings play. He would need a lot of takedowns against Ross Pearson. Ross knows how to defend a takedown. Like, I think this is probably actually a pretty close fight. It's just really hard to have any sort of faith in Ross Pearson at this point. If I were to ever make a play, this is a full out pass for me. But if you live part of that YOLO lifestyle, I think I've seen like Ross Pearson by decision at like close to 800 plus 800. It's just like, if you like playing like an absolute prop, like absolute long shot like that, like bet Ross by decision and hope that you get lucky. But no, this is an easy one to stay away from as well.
Yeah, you know what? I could see how Des Green looks sexy, certainly on paper. It got steamed, and now it's not sexy in the slightest bit whatsoever, because that's just a very big price tag. But he's got all the tools, if not more, to beat Ross Pearson. You know, we talked about, and this is not the question on the DK comment board this week, but like, there's a lot of guys in this card that are considered wash. You think Dave Branch is washed? You should see Ross Pearson. Like, and again, you look at this card. It also features
in fairness to Ross Pearson.
Jessica Aguilar is on this card. Potentially Michael Johnson, Dave Branch. You know what I mean? Like, you get in a situation where eventually over time you fight the highest level. Ross Pearson fights the best guys. He's through all the wars, but the game gets better. You know, guys are faster. Guys are better athletes. Guys have better output because, you know, they're just physically in better shape. Their strength and conditioning is on a different level. They're able to cut weight. Ross Pearson is old school. He wings a big left hook and he stays in your face and he's gritty. But now that he's getting a little bit older and he's getting a little bit slower, he's taking a lot of damage and you hate to see it. And then you start to look at quality of opponent. Well, he fights Will Brook, who is certainly, you know, former Bellator champ, bad stylistical clash. Doesn't take much damage, but that's the beginning. Because after that, he fights George Masvidal, who absolutely wrecks this guy. I remember he congratulates Masvidal, I think, after round 2, good fight, not knowing the third round has yet to occur. He's out of it, and he lost the decision. But then he loses a battle to Stevie Ray. Okay, Stevie Ray, you just went from Masvidal to Stevie Ray. But you lose that fight too. Dan Hooker, he's on his way up. He beats you. That's a 4-fight losing streak, Paul. Ross Pearson shouldn't be in the UFC, but we owe him one. He's a former tough champ. He's been around for a long time. He's given us some great battles. He's a little bit of name cachet in Europe.
Give him pugness.
You gave him Mizuta Hirata, the one guy that you knew he was going to be able to save his job with, and he does save his job. And then he completely gets annihilated by John Makdessi. It was a fight of the night. But it was classic Ross Pearson. I'm still tough, and I'm willing to stand in your face and wing that big left hook. But I'm landing at an increasingly lower volume, decreasing volume, I guess I should say. And my big power, it's not really there anymore. He's dangerous because he's a veteran, and that's what he's got. But he generally now is going to decision and get beaten up by the younger, quicker athlete. And that's what Des Green's going to pose with him. If Des Green can't take him down, because that's the one wrinkle here, is that Des Green could just take him down, hopefully, and then secure rounds like that. But if Des Green's unable to, he could probably just outpoint him from the outside. And it ain't going to be pretty.
No.
But Des Green's last 8 fights have gone to decision.
Yep.
He gives no fucks about going to decision. He's fought Merbek Tesumov
and went to decision
for 15 minutes. Do you really think Ross Pearson's big left hook is going to turn the tide? No. So like you're saying, decision would be the better prop there on Pearson because maybe he's able to just do a little bit, land the more significant
like this
punches.
That's a YOLO play.
But I see
like
this,
if you just like throwing a little punt play out there.
Fair.
That's the only play I see that's even intriguing. But I don't like it.
But
Green, for 8 to 1, like 7.5, 8 to 1, it's like you're not going to ever like any of those plays. You just like the value on it.
Yeah. Fair enough. So again, I see why Des Green is the preferred play, but for 445, it's like too many things could go wrong in this sport with a guy like Des Green. And the 9,300, it's like I just don't. And he would have to finish him, and I don't see that happening. So
in this sport, minus 445 for somebody who has went to decision his last 8 fights, we have seen bad decisions going on the last few weeks. This last month or so, there's been a collection of them all over the place, and.
Yeah,
you're putting almost a minus 500. You're putting in the hands of those idiots those 3 idiots sitting cage side that they're gonna see something right. Like that's a proposition that you kind of want to stay away from altogether.
And last and final thing, you're in Philadelphia, crowd. Maybe they've had a couple drinks. Who knows? You got Ross Pearson that should be moving forward and winging punches, and people are gonna cheer. He's a fan favorite. He's been in this fucking game for a long time. He deserves respect. He's gonna be winging punches. Des Green, not a fan favorite. Guys like to boo Des Green because he moves on his back foot and he jabs. I think he's entertaining. I like the guy. I've watched him for a long time, but not a fan favorite. So, yeah, you want to talk about bad decisions. We see bad decisions all the time. And I'm not saying this is going to be a bad decision, but one guy moves forward and swings punches. The other guy moves back, doesn't land anything significant, just a lot of jabs.
Maybe the MMA gods go, hey, Ross. We're really sorry about what happened in Albuquerque that one time when Diego Sanchez, like the definition of bad
Perhaps
hometown decision.
The biggest robbery of all times.
Maybe
next to Kevin
the MMA gods go, we got you. We got you, Ross. One more fight. We got, moving on, we got Enrique Barzola taking on Kevin Aguilar. Enrique Barzola, 8,200, minus 120 favorite. Aguilar is 8,000 plus 100. What you take here?
Yeah, again, I think this fight is going to come down completely to ring IQ. If Barzola decides he's going to stand with this guy, and we've seen Barzola what happens with him.
He's a very good wrestler.
He's a great fighter. It's just he doesn't particularly tie things together, and you got to realize, if I'm Khabib, outside of I guess when Khabib fought Ali Quinta, I don't strike with opponents for a prolonged period of time. I just don't do it. Tatiana Suarez doesn't do it. George St. Pierre, he didn't do it. Gregor Gillespie.
You throw the hands to set up the takedown. You don't go to where you are most dominant.
But these guys are like, man, back in the gym, I was smacking this guy around. It's like, I get that. I get that. And in the gym, there's nobody judging it. And you can go back the next day and get at it again. Hopefully not the next day because, hard sparring. But you can get it back. This is 15 minutes. If you don't impress the judge, you're going to lose. He's been fucked before in a decision when he lost to Kyle Bochniak in BC. I don't know what was going on there, but all the same is that this guy, if he does not go to his wrestling straight up in this fight, he's going to have problems. Kevin Aguilar is a better striker than him. Kevin Aguilar has better jiu-jitsu than him. The problem with the jiu-jitsu thing is if Barzola is on top of you, it's not going to matter. You're not going to triangle him. You're not going to armbar him, I don't think. He is freakishly strong, dude. This guy has some next level strength. And I'd like to see him fight more frequently just so that he can get more miles under his belt. Still a young guy, trains at ATT. He's getting better, but I'd like to see more of him just so that he could continue that development. Don't like to see the layoffs, but he's got everything I like out of a DK play and a money line play that's minus 120. He goes for it, and Aguilar has trouble with takedown defense, which is if Barzola chooses to make that his only game plan, his only priority. Who cares if they boo? Take this guy down and smash him all day. I want shares all day. But we've seen him.
I play Barzola every single card on DraftKings. I play him.
He's nuts.
Pretty much 100% every single time. The guy averages 87.5 points per fight. Even, and in some of these spots, it's just like, oh my God. Like, what was that? Matt Bissett, I believe it was that fighter. What was the one?
Yeah, Bissett.
He wasn't going for the takedown. He still ended up scoring okay in that. But
because he got early takedowns.
It could have been so much more. because he really actually, I think he actually only started going to the takedowns a little bit later in the fight. Just like, oh shit, like this guy can be an absolute DraftKings superstar. Just in the fact that one, as you were talking about, like his grappling isn't great, so his opponents actually usually have a pretty good chance of getting back up. And yeah, and when he relentlessly pursues these takedowns and gets these takedowns, like the guy's a stud. So 8,200 is probably my favorite play on the card.
Yeah, well,
but it's obviously dangerous because Aguilar is a hell of a win against Rick Glenn. Like that's a very good win for your UFC debut.
Short notice UFC debut, beats Rick Glenn, a tough guy. But in the fight with Rick Glenn is that he matches up good against Glenn because he's a more technical striker anyways. They're both good technical strikers, but he can strike with them. He can grapple with them. He doesn't have to worry about Glenn's takedown game or his physical advantages, which is all he's got to worry about in a fight with Barzola. And like you're saying, Barzola, as long as he doesn't get into those spots where he's not attempting takedowns,
which I really worry about because he does it constantly.
I look at guys that are at this level of takedown defense. Okay, Gabriel Benitez, super underrated, very tough guy, trains at AKA with Islam Makhachev and Khabib, taken down 9 times by Khabib or by Barzola, like nothing. Bassett, similar level of takedown defense. If we're being honest, he doesn't really pursue them in that fight to the extent I would have liked. Still got 5 of them. Brandon Davis's takedown defense, I'm telling you right now, par with Kevin Aguilar. He took down Brandon Davis 10 times. The takedown's gonna be there. Just pursue it.
Don't get knocked out.
Get it.
And
he's got a great chin.
And then even if you're getting the takedowns, you're not actually scoring on the ground. Even if you lose the fight, say this guy scores 5, 6 takedowns, there's 30 points just as like a base floor. You know what I mean?
With 40 significant strikes, some ground transitions.
In a loss, he doesn't kill you. That's the why he's just a guy that I just play every single time.
Yeah, he'll be heavy owned. People like this kid.
As he should be. Because the other guy, you're chasing a submission or you're chasing the knockout. And like, let's be honest, you don't want to chase those things. I know that, like, for instance, Anthony Pettis, that was really his only path to victory last week, and he was getting his ass kicked until that. But it's like that was not. Yeah, he needed the knockout. Chasing the knockout doesn't work out very often. We got Kevin Holland taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Kevin Holland 8,900 minus 200. Gerald Meerschaert 7,300 plus 170. I think I always Meerschaert my pants whenever I pick a Meerschaert fight.
Yeah, he's more talented than he's shown.
I don't know what I actually don't know what he's good at, to be perfectly honest. I've watched, I've tried, and the thing is, all of his fights always, like the winner of his fights always just end up smashing the slate. So God, Kevin Holland doesn't really have power in his hands though, so I'm not worried about that, but geez, I can't bring myself to roster Gerald Meerschaert. I'm sorry. He has burned me. I pick him wrong pretty much every single time. And I don't really know what he's good at. He's not a great striker. He's supposed to be a grappler, but like sometimes guys just like, for instance, Hermansson absolutely just cut through him. Absolutely destroyed him on the ground last time. Jesus. It's one of those spots. My pick is Holland. I'm picking Holland to win, but he's 8,900. I don't think he actually has the type of style to be a big type of DraftKings scorer. I think he's going to try to stay on the outside. He's going to land jabs and stuff. But like Meerschaert is just such a donkey that he just goes in there and makes it a fight. Maybe he forces him to do something that he doesn't want to, or he accelerates the fight and Kevin Holland gets a big finish. But I'm going to plug my nose and just fade this fight on DraftKings. I do like Holland to win, but minus 200 is too much. It's a pass. What about you?
Yeah, again, if we're just looking at punt plays on the card, Paul Craig...
Meerschaert is a good punt play, but God.
I know that. Paul Craig is the definition of a punt in this play, you know, in the situation. Yeah. And Meerschaert is in a very similar boat. Is that like, yeah, he could win. And if he does win, he's going to pay some good amount of points. But Kevin Holland seems to have him outmatched. Similar to Mr. Kennedy's fight. It's like this guy's got all the physical advantages. He's super long. He's going to he's a better striker. Not a more technical striker, but he's got a good chin. And because of his physical advantages of being, you know, the longer, lengthier guy, I do believe that if it stays just a striking battle, that he would win. If Meerschaert wants to take this fight to the ground, and that's what he probably should do, he is a decent grappler, it's going to be hard to take down this big guy. Now, Thiago Santos, not known for his grappling, he takes down Kevin Holland and just
But you're also not expecting Kevin or Thiago Santos to come around to come across and try to take you down.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things to consider there.
Yeah.
Thing number one, Kevin Holland took that fight on short notice. Thing number two, Kevin Holland moved up a weight class for that fight on short notice. Number three, that guy that he ended up fighting on short notice, up a weight class, ended up being potentially the next title challenger in the division. So world class. Number four, he didn't make Thiago Santos look human. Thiago Santos won the fight by decision, something you don't hear very often. But like he hung, he can handle the power. He tired him out. He wasn't so out of place. That Meerschaert, a guy that's not really big for 185, is not going to be able to just take him down and hold him down to the same extent. So what we saw out of Kevin Holland his next time out is that he doesn't have to deal with a physical freak like Thiago Santos. He's getting a reasonable opponent and he looks infinitely better. Again, here's a guy that's, I want to say improving because he seems to be an athletic guy. He's a little bit older. He's not your typical prospect that's going to be making waves. But he's got the length, he's got the reach, he's got the ability to maybe just drag you into some deeper waters, hopefully, and make you pay. Against John Phillips, he fought a really bad game plan. Like, John Phillips can literally do one thing, wing bombs, that's it. And he chose to stand in front of John Phillips and beat him up. And then in the third round, I was like, I'm tired of this. Takes him down, which he should have done, and submitted him. But hey, dude, here's a guy that's a competent striker. He can stand with the big power puncher and beat him. He can also take you to the ground in later rounds.
He secured like 5 takedowns in that fight too.
Yeah, and secured 5 takedowns in that fight.
He scored like 155 points. Like he broke the slate that week.
Yeah, and then he decides to like he sits on the what is it? I think it's got it listed as 21 days ago in I want to say Colorado or sorry Texas. 21 days ago in Texas, he takes like a grappling super fight against some jiu-jitsu guy from Texas and wins a decision. Like here's a guy that's not sitting on his laurels. He's a decent striker, but he's working on his grappling and he's staying in shape and he's getting at it and he trains with a decent yet unheralded team. He should be able to beat Gerald Meerschaert, who has, not looked terrific. But as far as punts go, Gerald Meerschaert could take this guy down and win 2 of the 3 rounds. I don't see Meerschaert finishing him. And because of that reason, I don't think Meerschaert's got a great shot because he probably needs to snag something up like an armbar or whatever to give himself a chance. But based on maybe this guy's so tall, he's got a high center of gravity, I could peel him down. I could stay on top of him. Maybe he gives up his back and I get around him like, maybe he makes it greasy. Maybe he's able to be a decent punt. I don't think he's got as high of an upside as Paul Craig, who could get a late finish. I don't see he has that. But 7,300 certainly tempting. Plus 170, not as tempting, but enough to probably make you say pass on this fight.
We got Ray Borg taking on Casey Kenny, who comes in on extremely short notice this week. Ray Borg, 9,400 minus 355. That line was basically just released. It was released overnight type of thing. So expect some continual movement on that one. And Casey Kenny is 6,800 and plus 265. Does Borg roll here and pay off the 9,400, Cody?
Well, we always talk about question marks, and Ray Borg's a guy that's surrounded in a shroud of question marks. Making 125 pounds is always just like a monumental task for this guy. Did not cut the weight particularly well. Would we have liked to have seen him fight at 135 earlier in his career? God, it seems like he's small for 35, but he's got really no choice at this point. He struggles at 125. He's been off for almost 2 years. What is it? The exact date? His last fight was against Demetrius Johnson. A year and whatever it is, 5 months, year and 6 months. Now, since then,
well, Conor.
But yeah,
crazed
more than
maniac.
Conor, family issues and Conor and sickness, and he had 3 scheduled fights with Brandon Moreno fall apart. A fight with Joseph Benavidez fall apart, and then even in this fight, he's gone through Pingyu Liu, Kyler Phillips, and now Casey Kenny, who fought last weekend and is taking this fight on a week's notice. Craziness. It's basically like we're playing whose opponent is it anyways. In fact, I don't even know if this fight's gonna happen because with with Ray Borg, you just don't never know, man. Like shit happens on fight week with this guy. Shit happens. It's not that I don't trust him when he physically makes it to the cage. He's a talented guy. Mm-hmm. It's that when he first debuted in the UFC, he lost to Dustin Ortiz, I believe. I think a split. But it was like, fuck, dude, this guy's young and he's talented and he's going to be something. And it's like, then after that, he's never really lived up to that hype. When he's on, dude is on. He'll take your back like nothing. He'll out-grapple you. He's a fantastic grappler. He out-grappled Yusuff Formiga. This guy's on point. What he did to Smolka was like broke DK, just transition after transition after transition. He's on. but his state of mind's not always on. The weight cut hasn't been good. The family issues have obviously been, who wouldn't that fucking bother? Let's be real. So you got that on your mind. You got this dolly going through the window. Now this lawyer guy comes up to you and says, hey, we could sue, we can make some money, but if we sue, you can't fight, because if you fight, then they're going to say you're really not that hurt. So now you're sitting on the sidelines, but now you're not getting paid from the lawyer who you got to pay these fees to, and you haven't got your settlement, and the UFC's not paying you. So like, again, he's been off long enough that that's going to be problems, but anybody who takes a week fight on a week's notice against Ray Borg is in some serious trouble.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, Casey Kenney, you got balls. He could fight at 25, he could fight at 35, that should help him, but he's long and rangy, and that's not going to play to his favor. No. Also, Ray Borg's not willing to take risks, I don't think, and that's going to play in his favor, because he's not going to go out there and think, I'm going to throw hands for a prolonged period of time. He's got decent hands, Ray Borg does, but he'll bop him up long enough to close the distance, get a hold of this guy, rip him to the ground, and submit him. I would think if he doesn't submit him, he wins the 3 rounds, which again, he's not above just going the 3 rounds, but he could score some big points. The 9,400 though is like, you think I sound high up on him right now. Do
you think he goes out there and gets a first round
I don't
submission
know.
and then he pays it off easy?
I don't think he does. I don't think he does. And the reason I say that is that, again, all these uncertainties from him. Then he's taking Pingyu Liu, who is a Chinese kickboxer. Then he's taking on Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips is on the Ultimate Fighter at 145 pounds, taking on little old Ray Borg, who's a former flyweight. So it's like, it's a big drastic change. And then Phillips falls out of it, and you get a very competent opponent in Casey Kenney. So a lot of people would say, took the fight on a week's notice. Guy just fought. But I don't think that plays in his factor, because he just fought. Like, you'd be aching. You'd wake up and your body would hurt. And then they would tell you it's at 35, so you don't really got to cut, but it's back on the grind, and it's back to getting, you probably got to cut a couple pounds, and it's back to traveling to a new city. And it's back to like, all those things are not going to play in his factor. I think Borg should get the win. 9,400, you need classic vintage Borg. And we haven't seen what Borg almost 2 years later looks like. He's still young. I can't imagine he's taking any steps backwards. But he wasn't able to put away Louis Smolka. He wasn't able to obviously put away Yusir Formiga. And then he
scores in all those spots, though.
He scores in those spots because he just absolutely trumps them in the grappling. And that's what he should do here. And I would love to play him, and I probably still will. But 9,400 is you got to consider, is he going to roll on him that bad? Or is he going to have a little bit of ring rust and he doesn't complete the takedown enough? And Casey Kenney, he's got a decent ground game, but he's not going to get back up. Probably not. Borg's too top heavy, and Borg will take his back. If he scrambles to get back up, Borg will take his back. So now Borg might only score 3 or 4 takedowns for 20 points, plus the ground transitions make up another 30, 40 points, plus the significant strikes. He's not a ground and pound guy. If he doesn't attempt any submissions, maybe he only scores 85, 90 points. Not bad, but he'll probably have a decent ownership with him. And he's going to have to absolutely roll to get that price tag. That's all. But yeah, he's the favorite for a reason, and I don't disagree.
Yep, we got Sabina Mazo taking on Marina Moroz, 8,800. Mazo. Moroz is 7,400 plus 140. Don't ever play Marina Moroz on DraftKings. Unless she was taking... I still can't believe that happened when she took on Joanne Calderwood. Calderwood's grappling was completely different back then.
Talk about a debut. She bopped her standing. She hit her with a 3-piece, and then this girl falls over, and then she gets
soda on the ground,
and then she submits her on the ground. It's like, holy shit, this girl's for real. Then
otherwise, after
she jumps on the cage afterwards, points at Joanna like, "I want you, I want you." Joanna says, "Bring it." The UFC decides, okay, let's put her in Laterno real quick, and then we'll set up. Laterno murders her. Laterno gets the fight. Joanna, and Moroz has never been the same.
No,
it's literally been downhill, or at least not going up. Maybe if it's not downhill, it's just been like sitting at neutral.
Watching that, going back to like when she took on Danielle Taylor. Now Danielle Taylor sucks the life out of any DraftKings lineup. Don't get me wrong, but like just watching that fight, it's just like. You cannot be rostered whatsoever moving forward. I haven't had a chance to. I know that she's the former LFA champion in Sabina Mazo. Maybe you have some insight to her. I haven't had a chance to look at her yet.
Yeah, Marina Moroz has got all the tools to win this fight. It's whether she's going to put together the proper game plan, and I can't get behind that. She has so low punch output that It kills me. It really does. Her last fight is the anomaly to that. She lands 84 against Angela Hill, but Angela Hill's going to stand with you the entire time. She's going to put the kind of pressure on you that you're going to need to fight her back. And without any threat of a takedown whatsoever from Angela Hill, it's just going to be...
And they're all landing significant strikes.
That's the other thing.
Significant.
Right. It's just
real
like...
significant.
It's like, Joe, she hit her 30 times.
She hit her with a left hook. It probably wouldn't have killed a fly, but...
Yeah, but all the same, it's like somebody that's sitting there with the ticker is just like, oh,
significant. Yeah, it is. That's the game that we're playing, though, right?
That's the game. Wow, look at heavier weight classes. It's like you take half a dozen. Let's say you took 10 unchecked leg kicks. Fuck, dog. You know, it'll mess you up. But yeah, no, here you're gonna land like 40 leg kicks unchecked. It don't really matter. Again, I'm not trying to be distasteful. All I'm saying is that Marina Moroz is she's got that Ukrainian like boxing pedigree. This girl can box. This girl's got sharp 1-2, a good jab, and I like what she's got to offer. When she came and she debuted against Calderwood, nobody's backing this girl, and the people that were, they were in the know. Against a classic Muay Thai style like Calderwood's, where you're going to be open and you're going to be flat-footed, her boxing is going to chew you up, and it did chew her up. Then you hit the ground. She had a pile of armbar victories prior to getting to the UFC, but it's like, damn, you just submitted Joanne Calderwood, especially from that position, like you're getting stacked and you still get the armbar. You know, sky's the limit for her. But now when you see her, the ground game doesn't really seem to be there, but the boxing, Paul, that's where I have my issue, is that the 1-2, it's like they come close. She makes the noise, classic Holly Holm or Caitlin Chukagian, the women's tennis player noise. Yeah. She's all about that, but there's no connection. It's like she pulls on her punches. She just doesn't quite land enough. So there's the perception that she's in your face doing something, but she's not doing anything. After she lost to Letourneau, and that was probably the real glimpse of maybe she's not what we thought she was. But she fought Christina Stanciu. I watched that fight at your place. We had her everywhere under the assumption that Christina Stanciu was the worst fighter in the UFC. And she won, but she did not look good, man. No. She did not look good at all. Ended up settling for a decision. Then she fights Danielle Taylor. The fight was 15 minutes long. She landed 17 significant strikes, which puts you at a little over 1 strike per minute, because there's no output out of her. Against Carla Esparza, she showed that her takedown defense is not quite there. Again, because she was on her back the whole time, she couldn't really strike. Sure. And against Angela Hill, Striker's Delight, she got what she was being offered. Mazo is young. Mazo's green. Mazo does not fight well off the back foot. She could be exposed. You could catch this girl. You could beat this girl. She's in a vulnerable situation. But I don't have the trust in Marina Moroz that she is going to pressure forward the whole time.
Yeah, nor should you.
Mazo's longer. Mazo's a very good combination striker. And again, Mazo's going to do her best work when she's moving forward, landing combinations. I'm not sold on her striking off her back foot. But Marina Moroz, even if she is pressuring forward, it's going to be a lot of pulling on her punches, I believe, and Mazo outstriking her. If Mazo can do what Angela Hill did, she'll get the win. I don't love it, Paul. The price really isn't that bad for the minus 160. The 8,800, no way. The 7,400, even as a punt, not interested. But I want to say Mazo. She's the prospect. Everyone's super hyped up on her, but this is the problems that you get in MMA. Mazo kicks this girl in the head. It was some crazy shit, Paul. Her next fight, she kicks a girl in the head. It was some crazy shit, Paul. Now everybody and their mom loves this girl. She felt like Shannon Sin, who's like as regional scene gatekeeper as it gets, and is like had to go through the gears with this girl. She's young, developing prospect, but because you see a couple highlights and she's undefeated, you jump right on it. And Marina Moroz is not above sneaking one out here. But if she does squeak one out, it still won't be enough for DraftKings. And the plus 140 is not a great price tag. So again, I hate to pass on a ton of fights, and I don't feel like I'm passing on too many on this card. But if you're not unless you got an inside scoop,
send us the scoop if you got the scoop.
Yes, hook me up. You probably want to steer clear of this fight because somebody could be blowing it for you.
Yep, and finally we've got Alex Perez taking on Mark De La Rosa. Perez 9,200 minus 320 favorite. De La Rosa is 7,000 and plus 260. Alex Perez, people were all over him against Joe Benavidez.
They still are. Yeah.
And that
apparently that didn't faze them none.
Well, this is a much different situation.
Yeah,
I was shocked. Like, I know that people are gonna complain about like the stoppage in that fight and stuff, but it's just like the fact that he ended up being like a minus 145 favorite against Joe B, who had fought everybody. Like that was egregious. That was such a bad line. And luckily I was able to take advantage of that one. I think this is a get right spot for him. Mark De La Rosa has had some nice fights in the octagon so far. He's probably not overachieved. He hasn't had anybody very, very difficult so far. And now taking on, like he's been able to use his grappling to his advantage over people. I don't think he really has that same advantage. And I think Perez torches De La Rosa on the feet in this spot too. So I totally get why he's the favorite here. On DraftKings, it's the question starts becoming like, who are you paying up for this week? And when you look at the top of the board, I like Ray Borg. Just Ray Borg has a top. He has like a really, really super, super high ceiling that he could hit. And when he hits that, he scores big. We've got Mr. Kennedy up there. Hey, if he does what he did to that Alaskan hillbilly, we're getting like 120, 130, 130 points 100%. Out of this guy. So it starts to become one of those things that's just like you can't pay up for everybody. So Perez is probably the guy at the top that, besides obviously Des Green, completely staying away from that. Marina Rodriguez, completely staying away from that. Fair. But like I prefer Borg and Mr. Kennedy at the top of the pricing bracket as opposed to Perez. So I'm probably steering clear on DraftKings. Maybe you have some insight on the betting line here for me though.
No, I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but 320 is just like a steep price for Alex Perez. Alex Perez looked really good his first couple of UFC fights. It's like, damn, this guy completely clowns Eric Sheldon in the grappling department. Damn, this guy knocks out Jose Torres. Like, his striking's improving. He's young. He's out of a good camp. He's got a good pedigree to him. Again, I don't know why he was the betting favorite over Joby Wan Kenobi. I'm not 100% sure on that, but illegal strikes to the back of the head, potentially, and certainly looked like they were borderline, but it wasn't even that, man. He was getting hurt prior to that. He wasn't going to be able to take down Benavidez. It seemed like he was dealing with a speed disadvantage against Joseph Benavidez, and all those things, you know what? Doesn't really matter. Joseph Benavidez is one of the best in the world. So now we're going to give you an opponent that's just a good bounce back spot, and that's what he's getting in Mark De La Rosa. Mark De La Rosa himself was an undefeated fighter, takes a short notice fight against Tim Elliott. It's like, hey man, good on you for stepping up, but ultimately there are levels to this, and Tim Elliott is a cut above. Then he takes on Anthony Pettis' young, green, unproven cousin, gets a nice big win. But it's that Joby Sanchez fight, Paul. I myself bought into the hype a little bit. Here's a guy that is not great, but he's 24 years old, Mark De La Rosa, and he's already attained a BJJ black belt. His fiance, I don't know if it's girlfriend, fiance, I don't know, but Montana De La Rosa, apparently the janitor is cleaning the garbage outside.
someone's coming to clean up the trash. They must know we're ready to talk about our Ironman challenge.
Oh yeah,
from last week.
Anyways, to wrap it up though, here's De La Rosa. He's a black belt. His girlfriend Montana De La Rosa, I believe she's a brown belt. She wrestled collegiately. He's got decent grappling chops. He can apply all these things. Striking, work in progress. Only 24 years old, Texas kid. He's getting better. It's that fight with Joby Sanchez. For whatever reason, it's no knock against Joby Sanchez. Joby Sanchez can wrestle, man. Joby Sanchez has got some decent power. You know, he can strike. For whatever reason, Joby Sanchez can't win at this level. It's just, it ain't going to happen. I'm sorry, Sanchez. It is what it is. He just can't win at this level. He gave De La Rosa a tough fight. You know, he gave De La Rosa kind of all he could handle. And when I think about now, De La Rosa is jumping up from that level of potentially getting a little bit tired to dealing with a guy that was maybe a better wrestler than him. All these things, maybe not a better wrestler, probably on paper anyways, but maybe not MMA wrestling. All the same, De La Rosa, he's good everywhere, but not great anywhere. And that's now going to be a problem. Because Alex Perez is in a similar situation that he was a developing prospect, only his jiu-jitsu got good too. And his striking got good too. And he started fighting some of the best guys and actually looking decent. It's just the price tag. I mean, 320 for a guy that just got knocked out in the fashion he got knocked out. Not feeling it. And as far as the grappling goes, I might be inclined to give a slight advantage to De La Rosa, but De La Rosa is going to be smaller than him, not as physical as him. So I see Perez getting the better out of him. Maybe over the course of 3 rounds, picks up a decision. 9,200, it's not going to be good enough. If it is a decision, and 320, too many things could go wrong. So I don't particularly like it. But again, I do see why people like Alex Perez in this spot against De La Rosa, because I think he's got all the physical attributes and the size to get the victory. I'm just not super hyped on it because I don't see a ton of money-making abilities.
Yep. All right. Just quickly, we'll go through our pretty shitty lineup from last week. We got
Dems to breaks, Paul. Dems to breaks.
You know, we're starting to see in this contest too. It's just like it pays to be bold.
Yeah, you gotta go.
You gotta go crazy.
Take Anthony Pettis.
You gotta go
He's
crazy.
A great price tag
and
with a high upside.
I think we've been playing a little bit too safe, to be perfectly honest. So maybe we change up our strategy this week because we had Macy Barber. That's a good play. That works out. She was 8,900. She paid out like 11 times value. Boom.
Didn't look as good as they thought.
70,
but
whatever. 78% of people had her. So like you're not gaining any leverage on the field there.
No, never.
In the Ironman contest, John McDessie 66.5 points. He's just too safe. I know that he dominated Ross Pearson in a previous fight. He's not a great DraftKings player. That's on us. But there weren't too many. We were saying it, but there weren't like the dominant wrestlers on that fight card last week. So it's like, well, those are not the spots. We ended up on McDessie because we just thought he was going to win very decisively, but he just
didn't do nothing. And you know what? When I was talking about it earlier, is old Ross Pearson done? Think about it this way: John McDessie landed over 100 significant strikes. He outclassed him and made him look like he did not belong, and then proceeded to do absolutely nothing against Jesus Pinedo, largely because of the length and the reach. But it's like, is Jesus Pinedo that much better than Ross Pearson? Like McDessie, I don't know what it was, but he scored 66 points without doing anything. Had he just done a little more, Paul, maybe it would have been worth it, but he was expensive. Bad play. I agree.
Bobby Moffitt.
Oh, fuck. Bad ring.
Position over submission. Bad.
What?
Gave your head a shake.
Bobby the Wolf.
Obviously. We say this for fun.
But all the same, he should have done a little more in one. But.
Steve Peterson loses. He loses very, very decisively, but 43 points as an underdog, like that doesn't kill you. Like we did still, 4 takedowns, 2 advances, 34 significant strikes. Just like it doesn't kill you taking him in that spot. So like I don't even hate that one all that much. Chris Gutierrez, we called it here that he was absolutely going to style on this guy. Doesn't have the killer instinct.
Yeah, he didn't have the power. He didn't have the power.
He doesn't have the power, but
he pieced him apart, man.
He absolutely, you could see the style or the skill differential between the two of them, but he didn't end up playing out as for how dominant he was in that fight. It didn't turn into DraftKings points. So I guess moving forward, we got to realize that Gutierrez is not a great. He probably isn't a very good DraftKings player moving forward. It's unfortunate because like he's actually super skilled. Super skilled. I look for he's gonna win
a lot of decisions.
He's gonna be the type of guy you want to bet by decision moving forward. So at least we learned something out of that. And Frankie Sands, oh boy, he got killed.
Yeah, illegal strikes. Nah, he got smoked. He got styled up.
Dead.
And there's the flip side with Marlon Vera. Again, here's another guy. We talk about guys like this all the time. If he's on, he's on. He's a talented guy. He's got the goods, but it's like highly untrustworthy because you don't know what you're gonna get. Fights last weekend were good. Perhaps the 2 greatest moments because I don't think you got to see the post-fight like interviews. But Curtis Blades calling Justin Big Pretty Willis, Big Titty Willis. Fucking classic. And Bryce Mitchell, I've never seen nothing like this. I would like to someday, maybe I don't. Maybe I got to think about this. Do I want to go to Kansas someday and check it out?
It's Arkansas.
No, I know. But the fight was in Kansas. And Bryce Mitchell.
No, it was in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, no, I don't know why I was thinking that. Nashville, Tennessee. Bryce Mitchell gets on the microphone after this win over Bobby Moffitt, which he just...
Give me some camo.
Squeaked by. No, he literally just yelled... Yeehaw! Yeehaw! Arkansas! Arkansas! Yeehaw!
People loved it.
They start yeehawing back, dog. I was like, fuck, they're into this. It was crazy. But you never know what you're going to get in these different markets that you go to.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to America in these different decisions. So I see a lot of people be yelling robberies and shit all the time. It's like the only person, there's guys got the claim, but like guys like Ross Pearson and that fight with Diego Sanchez, that is a robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these close fights where not a whole lot happens, and you're going to see that this weekend. You're going to see that with Des Green and Ross Pearson, and Marina Rodriguez and Jessica Aguilar. and maybe Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Michelle Waterson. It's like, these are all close fights where maybe one person is doing a little bit more than the other person. But if you're going to go to decision, and I could see this card being a lot of decisions, by the way, it is what it is. You know, you're leaving it in the hands. I know it's very hard to finish a fight at this level. I absolutely understand that. It's hard to get it. But if you're going to be in a close fight and it's not going to be a finish, it dems to breaks, right? We've gotten some go our way. We've gotten some go against us. It is what it is. Some spots you get a Greg Hardy DQ, and some spots you don't. Just the way the MMA gods sometimes gift things. Stephen Thompson had never been knocked out. He had gotten smoked by Tyron Woodley. He had been smoked by Till. He took on a former featherweight who just completely knocked him out, rendered him unconscious. Like that's the game we're playing. So it's really hard to sit there and say, I got fucked or I got screwed or it shouldn't have happened. It's like, you know, if you're not going to check kicks and the guy keeps repeatedly throwing the same punch, trying to get the distance, then how is it a lucky punch? How is it a fluke punch? Like, it happens, right? So this is the greatest sport in the world, Paul. I'm truly blessed to be able to cover it and talk about it, but another prime offering. And we watch thousands and thousands and thousands of fights, but GAETHJE versus BARBOZA stands out, dog. That's a fight. And so this one has got me excited. They mostly always do, but definitely looking forward to this.
Do we really even have anything to say about the Conor McGregor situation?
No, it's just a beaten. You know, it's been beaten.
Let the legal system and everything take its course. Honestly,
let's say
like he hasn't actually been charged with anything. I'm not saying that he didn't do it or he did do it. I don't have any proof of anything. So it's like I see a lot of people out there really happy to like, you know, put the hammer down or be like, yeah, you know, McGregor, you deserve everything. It's just like, well, if he did do it, like, what a horrible situation. For one, the woman that it happened to.
Paul, I hate to say it.
So it's just like it's such a.
If you were given $100 million, he doesn't get $100 million. If you were given $60 million tomorrow, Paul, you got $60 million within 1 year, you'd have 2, maybe 3 sexual assault charges. And the only reason I say that is because you got money now, dog. You didn't do it. Because people are going to come after that money. And I don't know the situation here. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But until you tell me this is exactly what happened and it went through the courts and this were the details.
Yeah.
Like,
well, no, one, he didn't get charged with.
I don't know.
He didn't get charged with anything. He's under investigation.
It's been going on for a couple months.
It's under investigation. There was actually somebody who was telling me about this back in December. This Irish girl at a bar who seemed to know people.
It's in the news
back at home.
Right.
And she was just like, oh, this is going to be coming through pretty soon, which is kind of crazy. And I started seeing like the RT, like it was before I saw any of that stuff. So, and she didn't even seem like an MMA fan. She just kind of seemed to know about this, which is kind of crazy when I look back on it now. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's really to say. He didn't get charged with anything. He's been allowed to leave the country and come back into Ireland constantly. So it's just like let everything run its course and hopefully justice prevails. I don't know. I'm not gonna attack a guy who didn't necessarily do anything. I'm also not going to support a guy who potentially did do something. It's like it's out of everyone's hands. Let justice prevail and stop being an asshole on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm not telling him to be an asshole on Twitter. I'm telling people who are assholes on Twitter to stop being assholes on Twitter.
No,
just let it run its course.
You got to realize that it sounds like a broken record to a lot of people, but at the same time, if a new company came out and said we want to cover MMA content and they're paying money for it, and you wrote an article about Ray Borg and his great return to the card, you wrote a piece about Ross Pearson being one of the most well-traveled veterans in the game. And then you wrote anything.
You get 300 clicks. When you write anything about, you write what color Conor McGregor's underwear was when he bent over to pick up his kid. Woo, 3,000 clicks. Like it's a big difference.
Of course, but you'll remember this because we've been doing this for a long time. But remember back at the Fight Network, back in the day, like the glory days, right? A lot of the time it'd be like, hey, so George St. Pierre like said this, or like George St. Pierre said like he would be interested in this, and like it got to a point where like people in the office were like, I don't want to fucking talk about George St. Pierre. Like, he's retired. He's not fighting. Why are we talking about George St. Pierre? Because if he's in the headlines for anything and the video goes up to YouTube and it's got George St. Pierre in it, it's just going to get 2-3 more times the views. So you can talk about some sweet fight on the card. You can talk about Andrei Arlovsky and Stefan Struve and guys like Diego Sanchez, and you believe those guys are big names because they are. But it doesn't matter online, because online it's only going to filter in the big names. And the big names are Conor McGregor. The only other big names are guys that fought Conor McGregor, whether it be Nate Diaz or Khabib. Those are the only guys that are rivaled to have, you know, a big following. And they're because people didn't know who they were, for the most part, until they fought Conor McGregor. Then people dig them because they defeated Conor McGregor, and their following exploded from that. So yeah, everybody's got to talk about it. And it's not enough for MMA Mania or Bloody Elbow or MMA Junkie or MMA Fighting or whatever it is. It's not enough to just write an article about Conor McGregor, because what you can do is you can write an article about Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey. Well, she has a comment, and Dana White's got a comment, and John Kavanaugh's got a comment. And we talked to Artem Lobov because he's got this bare knuckle boxing fight. He gives a comment. And so every headline is McGregor, McGregor, McGregor. And that's when you get fucking sick of it. Like, I don't care. Same thing with Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz. Some of the most entertaining fighters of all time, fan favorites. I don't really look up to fighters anymore. Like, not that I don't look up to them, I look up to all of them. I don't have like favorite fighters anymore. These guys are on the favorite fighter list. But like, who fucking cares, man? They're not fighting.
Yeah,
I don't give a shit.
It's a tough balance, right?
But
because
it gets the views, and some company is paying money. They have to have a return. It's the way the game works. So the return is, write 10 articles about Colby Covington, because people want to click on that. They don't care about some of these other fights.
Well, yeah, it's like I used to do, MMA headlines every single day. I was the guy making all like the B-roll and stuff. And it was just like, oh, GSP considers potentially maybe fighting once again in the future. And it's just like, didn't we have a story like this yesterday? It was the exact same thing, but it's just like having that in the title of the video that we would post to YouTube every single day. That's what sold. That's what, that's what pays the bills.
Yeah, like they say,
it sucks, but like that's it's a catch-22. Because like
it's called clickbait, but clickbait is the most successful shit. BuzzFeed gets clicks.
Because me and you, we're clicking on any sort of video that interests us in MMA, regardless of if it's Sadiq Yusuf or if it's GSP. If it interests us, it interests us. But well, that other stuff is just like the same old story. We'd have our boys Robin Black and John Ramsey talking about like the same potential comeback of Georges St. Pierre for like 2 years, 3 years. It felt like the same freaking chat every single day. But
yeah, that's
how we got more clicks.
That's just the way it goes, right? And sadly enough, it is what it is. Now, I believe the question this week just a reminder is, what's the greasy theory on why he retired? You want to know, man?
Yeah.
Okay, so fucking way out in left field, I know, probably because nobody will agree, but he kind of doesn't specify he's done fighting. He kind of specifies, I'm retiring from mixed martial arts. That would give people the impression that he's going to box. His contract's probably got a boxing stipulation in it, especially because he renegotiated a contract with them to have a boxing match. So he can't fight MMA and he can't fight boxing. What's he going to do? I don't mean right away. Give it a couple months. He's going to fucking bare knuckle box Paulie Malignaggi. That's the move here. And the reason I say that is this bare knuckle FC, they've got some money. They don't got Conor McGregor money, but they don't need Conor McGregor money. Conor McGregor signs with them through a loophole in his contract that allows him to bare knuckle box because it's a different sanctioning body. It's a different sport. I don't know the loophole that they'll pursue. But if he is able to bare knuckle box, then Malignaggi fights Lobov. He probably beats Lobov. Let's be real. Now you're able to set up a little bit of a grudge match. You know how easy it would be to promote this fight? Conor McGregor, this is how easy it is. You release the whole fucking sparring footage. Step number 1, okay? Step number 2, you spend a little bit of marketing, talk a little bit of shit. Step number 3, this motherfucker slaps him in the face at a restaurant in Miami Beach. Front page of every newspaper. Front page of TMZ. Paulie Malignaggi and McGregor get into a scuffle. Right there, people are on board. Now, looking at the math on it, Conor versus Floyd, $100 pay-per-view, 2 million pay-per-view buys. The problem there is you got to cut in the UFC. You got to cut in Showtime. You got to cut in Floyd, and he's the A side. He's making more than you anyways. You got to cut in the venue. You got to cut in the marketing. You got to cut in. They had a world tour, Paul. They went to New York and Toronto and London and LA. They're going all over the place. It costs money. So Conor gets his take at the end of it. Well, him versus Paulie be a $60 pay-per-view. And it ain't going to get 2 million pay-per-view buys. It's going to get 800,000. But he's got to cut nobody in it. It would be his own promotion, McGregor, whatever it is, McGregor Promotions.
Sure.
Okay. He would pay Paulie Malignaggi $1 million, which Paulie would be fucking happy as hell with. And the marketing, again, you slapped him in the face in some club. It's prearranged. Don't worry about it, Paul. You'll see on fight night. And we released an old video of us sparring back in the day. Maybe it was a slip. Maybe it wasn't. But that in itself, it's going to sell a third of what a big mega fight on pay-per-view would do with those other promoters. But not having to cut them in and just promoting your own fight, he would make more money than he did for those mega fights. And I don't think the guy's a dummy. I think he's got legal troubles right now. But again, what zillionaire doesn't, I guess. And he's going through the strides. But at some point, he's going to realize, I'm a 30-year-old man. I've got another $100 million left in me to go out and make. So go out and make it. And I think he will. And so for that reason, everyone's looking at either he never fights again or he's going to jail. Or if he does come back, it'll be for Nate Diaz, Khabib, Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway. You know what I mean? They've all got storylines. Cowboy. He's got options. But my greasy theory is going to be greasy, Paul. Bare knuckle motherfucking boxing Paulie Malignaggi. What's up? Heard it here first.
Cody Saftic, ladies and gentlemen. Pimp your stuff. You got anything in the works here?
Yeah, basically just going through the grind of what we've had the last, is it 9 weeks of UFC events? No event next week. So yeah, just getting things together. What I do got going on is, maybe I'll tweet it out, but me and my dad got a horse. Her name's Keep Focused, but we call her Cookie Saftic Hanover. She's racing in the first race, Friday, 6-hole. And first start back, her 4-year-old season. She won both of her qualifiers. Last one by 7 lengths, home in 28 seconds. So fingers crossed. She probably needs a tightener, like a real race, before she starts banking it. I say, bet that bitch. But I'll be looking forward. So I'm going to
What's her name again?
Her name's Keep Focused. She's the 6th.
Yeah, but what's her real name?
The barn name?
What you call her?
Cookie Saftic Hanover?
Cookie. That's awesome. Well, let's go Cookie Saftic Hanover.
Win from the 6th. Cookie Saftic or Cooks, Little Cooks.
Little Cook Saftic. You win out of that 6-hole, girl.
4-year-old Mach 3. Let's go.
All right. That is Cody Saftic. You can follow him on Twitter at CJ Saftic. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul Shag. Obviously, you can follow our friend Chad Dow, Stock Rising, on our friend Chad Dow, who is the producer of this show behind the scenes. I think it's like Chad. How many A's are there?
Jade.
1 A. How many D's?
2 H's, 2 D's.
2 H's, 2. You got to fix that, man.
Jade?
It's Chad with 2 H's, 2 D's.
Is it
Chad with 2 H's and 2 D's? Well, you can follow him at Chad. Thank you to Chad for doing all the work for us. Thank you to Cody for breaking down the fights with me. For all those guys, I'm Paul, saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo experience! Experience!